All right, class. Welcome to this week's module. This week we're talking about sales planning and forecasting, specifically forecasting. So forecasting is a really important concept. All organizations should, most do, some sort of forecasting their future. And so this module is actually connected to most of the other modules. For example, we recently went over break-even analysis. Now we figured out how many units we needed to sell to either break even or make a profit. The next step in that would forecast to see if we can actually sell that much in order to do the project or the product, whatever it is. So we're going to go over a few different techniques for forecasting. We're going to do a simple average, a weighted average, and then also regression. And with all forecasting, there's really two major types. Quantitative, which was looking at numbers, that's the three things I just talked about. And then qualitative, which is where we use an expert, we use our brain a little bit to say, okay, yeah, the numbers are telling us this, but we really need to consider this. Most organizations do some sort of a combination of the two, and it really can depend on the organization and how much it costs to carry inventory. For example, if it's a product that just costs very little to carry the inventory, then you might want to over forecast to make sure you have enough products so you can serve all your customers. But if you're making airplanes, you don't want to have an extra 1,000 airplanes sitting in a warehouse for a few years. That's going to cost you millions of dollars to hold them. So just something to think about, something to consider. So let's just get right into it. I've already copied in some data, so you can do that on your own as well. I'm sure and hope that you're following along my examples and doing them on your own. So let's get rid of the grid lines. All right, so what we have here, we have the previous 8 months of sales. And so you've got January through August. We want to forecast here for September using the simple average. So we'll come down here. We'll call this sheet simple. I just double clicked on that to rename this sheet. And the simple average is just what it's called. We'll call this a simple 3-month average, and then the simple 6-month average. And then we'll left align both of those. And we will clean them up a bit. Probably best would be to merge and center that. Merge and center that. And then make all borders. Okay, so this is simple. It really is. It's just like it's saying. All we're doing with this simple average is we're taking the average of the previous month. So the simple 3-month average to forecast September would just be to look at these 3 months and take the average. So the way we do that in Excel just equals average, and then we grab those 3 months. Similarly, for the 6-month equals average. We grab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so pretty straightforward. The one mistake I do see on the assignments and tests with this sometimes is sometimes I ask you to do the 3-month average, and some people will grab these 3 months. Do not worry about that. Always grab the 3 most previous months or the previous 6 months closest to the month you're forecasting. So that's a simple average. As I said, it's very straightforward, and we're just taking the average of previous months to forecast the next month. So now let's go over here and let's call this sheet weighted. And to make this easy, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to grab this table and just, in fact, we'll just grab the whole thing. And instead of simple, we'll change this to weighted. And then make this just a little bit bigger. All right, get rid of our numbers here. Okay, so weighted average. What a weighted average, simple is completely quantitative, right? It's just looking at numbers. Weighted, we start to get a little qualitative in there, where we actually start thinking, okay, it doesn't really make sense to do the exact same weight for all 3 months. So when we come over here to the simple, what this formula is, it's the average of these three. So really it's this number times 33% plus this number times 33% plus this number times 33%. So it's 1/3 of all of these to get the simple average. So weighted, what we say, okay, look, it doesn't make sense to put the exact same weight, the average on all those months. It might actually make more sense to, per se, put 50% on the most previous month, 30 on the one before that, and then 20 before that. And then we're going to do 2 of these. We'll do another one where it's 0.9 and 0.1. Let's grab this all. Add our this and this. Okay, so now the breakdown, we just need to times these and add them together. And so the one thing to consider here is your total here always has to equal 1. Over here it always equals 1 because there's 3 of them. So it's 33 1/3 plus 33 1/3 plus 33 1/3. It equals 1 for the average. Same over here. So 5 plus 3 plus 2 equals 1. 9 plus 0.9 plus 0.9 equals 1 as well. So the way we do this, I'll show you 2 different ways. And you can choose how you do yours on your assignment and test either way. So the first, it's going to do just doing the math. So we're going to go equals the 5 times the units sold, so 50% times 39 plus the 3 times plus times the 31. So what we've done is we've times them and then added them together to get our total of 35.6. Okay, so you can do it slowly like that if you want to, or in my opinion, the better and quicker way, if you understand it, is sum product. So I'm going to go equals sum product. Sum product does the same thing automatically for you. When I do sum product, this is the second weight, the 0.9, the 0.1. I'm going to grab these two, hit comma, and these two, comma. What sum product does is it times this by this, and then adds them together. So it's the same thing we just did, just a little bit different way to do it. Okay, so 38.4 and 35.6. So using these weights, this is weight 1, this is weight 2, so we need to change that. That's not the 3-month average. We'll call it weight 1. Weighted 2. Weighted scenario 1, weighted scenario 2. We've got 35.6 with these ones and 38.4 with these ones. All right, so that's the weighted average. Anything else to say? Of all of these so far, our weight 2 is our best forecast. So simple, the problem is we've been growing every month with units sold, and both of these are predicted below. Now simple is great for a product that is maybe more stable, not linear growth up or down. And same with weighted. Weighted, we can put more weight on something like we did here, the 0.9 on the most recent month. But let's talk about the better scenario, and the third technique we'll go over, which is regression. All right, so with regression, we'll do the same thing. We'll grab this previous 8 months, go over here to regression, blow it up a little, get rid of our grid lines. Okay, so what regression does, it's a formula that uses previous performance to predict the future, just like the simple and the weighted. But the difference is it takes a variable and plots it on a graph, draws a line based on all those points. It can predict any value in the future, and we can see how accurate it is based on past performance. So we'll just go through it and show you how it's done. The reason we've had the period here the whole time, the 1 through 8, is we need it for regression to draw a scatter plot. So what we do, we grab this whole thing. Make sure not to grab the words up here, just the numbers. We're going to go to Insert. You've got all these different chart types. Go to the Scatter, little down button, and only do the points. We'll bring it up here. All right, so as you can see in this example, we've had some pretty constant growth based on our previous sales performance. So now the next thing we want to do, let's go here to Add Chart Element. Let's go to a trend line and linear. What this does is it adds this line in the middle that is the average of all these points. I'm now going to double left click on that line. Here comes the formatting for the trend line, and I'm going to add equation and R squared. Now some of you, if you're on a different version of Excel, whether it's 365 online, if you're on a Mac, that might be a little bit different of a process. Like anything in this class, if you can't figure out how to do it, just Google it. Google how to get the R squared value on a line, Mac, and it will give you and show you directions as you find it online. So, all right, so now we've got a formula here and an R squared. Let's talk about the R squared first. What the R squared is this 0.98 means that these data points have 98% accuracy to this linear line that we drew, or that was drawn for us down, that goes on forever. That is really high. In fact, let me show you how that works. If I change these all to perfect increments, 35 and 40, my R squared is now going to be 1, right? Because they're all perfectly on that line. That's pretty impractical that something like that could happen, but I guess it's possible. All right, so let's move forward one. By the same token, let's just say that I have like this crazy couple numbers. All right, now as you can see, our R squared changed to 0.16, meaning that this line only has 0.16% accuracy to what's happening with all these data points. That is not something you would want to use regression for. That's where you would go back over here and say, okay, what makes more sense, a weighted or a simple average to forecast our next month? So let's go back to our numbers. See how bad I messed them up. Okay, and that is correct now. Okay, so anything over 0.6, you want to use regression. So if it's an assignment or a test and I say, all right, I tell you to forecast with the simple, the weighted, and regression, which one should you use, or which forecast should you use? If this R squared is 0.6 or 60% accurate, there's really not a scenario you would not use regression. So just remember that. If it's below 0.6, that's where you can choose one of these and just make an argument on why that would be the best forecast to use. So once again, 0.6 and over, you always go with regression. All right, so now we want to forecast the next year, let's say. So the cool thing about regression, we don't just do 1 month like the others. We can forecast the next 12 months or vice versa going on for, we can forecast forever if we wanted. Because what this linear line does now, and that's the second thing I want to talk about, this equation right here, the y, who remembers that from algebra? That is mx plus b, or the slope of this linear line is that y equals. Meaning this line goes forever, that's the slope of it. So we can go to 0.9 or the September, and it's going to come up here and it will tell us if we put 9 in for x, exactly what the value will be at 9, and we could do that for any number in the future, and it'll predict that future month. So let's just change a couple things here. Control copy, control paste. Let's call this next 12 months, and we're going to drag this down a little bit. September, October, November, December, that should be 12. Okay, but we did it. We've got to go September, October, November. We get 3 of them, and we can drag it down. All right, so that is now the next 12 months. Now for the period, since we're trying to forecast the next period here, the next one is 9. We need to start with 9 right here. 10, 11. I'll talk more about that here in a sec after I drag this down. And then we just want to get rid of these numbers because we are going to figure these out. Okay, so zoom out just a little bit so maybe you can see. Okay, all right, so as I said, you always start with the period right after the period of your past data. So if I had 11 months here, for example, if I'd given you the previous 11 months to forecast the future, you would start with 12 here because that's the next point on your chart that you're trying to figure out. And then you just go down from there. So if I gave you 6, you would then start with 7 right here on your period. And now all we have to do to forecast the next 12 months is put this period in for x in our formula of slope. So the way we do that is just going to equal 4.881 times our x, which is here, right there, plus 0.0357. So 43.96 is our forecast there. All right, we want to just, the good thing about this is, look at this formula. We have B14 here, but we have numbers written in elsewhere. That means these numbers will stay the same, but the B14 will drag down to B15, B16 if we drag it down, meaning if I drag it down here, it will now hit that 10, then the 11. So I can drag it all the way down. And there are my next 12 months of growth based on the linear line that we've had in the past. So that should be a pretty accurate way to measure it. So breaking this down, in this example, as I said, you would definitely use the regression. If I said, all right, in this example, would you use a simple the weighted regression? You would say, I would use a regression because it's way over 0.6. The 0.98%, almost 0.99%, shows 99% accuracy in the past. So that is the technique you want to use. This is a breakdown of forecasting. These are 3 different techniques. There's many more techniques that forecasters use and learn as they go along, but this is a good basis to start. And you can definitely take this back to your organizations, or if you're a small business owner, this is something you could use to instantly look at your forecasting and understand how many units you need to build, because one thing you don't want to do is have salespeople close a deal and then not have something to deliver. That I've been in that situation. I know what it's like. It's not good for morale. So this is forecasting. Until next week, we'll talk to you soon.